Right now, you're listening to Bush Telegraph. Cameron Wilson with you. I want to discuss bushfire now, and particularly if farmers are overconfident in their ability and perhaps a little complacent when it comes to the threat of bushfire. There's been some research into how farmers prepare, and it's revealed some really interesting facts from 3 ground fires in South Australia last summer. We'll discuss that research in just a moment. But first, let's hear from a farmer and a volunteer member of the Country Fire Service who had first-hand experience on the Bangor fire. Tim Zorn grows crops and, as I said, also a volunteer firefighter and president of the Laura Ag Bureau. Tim, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Cameron.
What's your fire plan at home?
Well, I suppose the basic fire plan of most rural people is to put the fire out and deal with it. But and it's one of those how long's a piece of string type of questions, I think.
But that's plan A. Do you have a number of scenarios in your head? Do you have a plan A, B, and C?
Oh, we do have various scenarios, but I mean I think it's very important to be able to assess the information and make decisions on the ground and work out what's going on and where you need to be, rather than having a strict, we're going to go to that town or go to there. Because the situations vary so much, and as shown with the fire we had here 8 months ago, that directions to go one way weren't necessarily a good idea.
Dr. Bradley Smith is with me. Bradley is a lecturer in Human Factors and Safety Research at the Human Factors and Safety Research Centre at CQ University, Adelaide. Bradley, thank you for joining the program.
Yeah, welcome.
Describe the attitude that farmers have towards bushfire based on your research.
I think the farmers are pretty confident about what they know about bushfires and how they're going to act and what the bushfire behaviour is going to do. So they go about their management every year of their properties in anticipation that fires could come and that things could happen. So they do things like making sure that paddocks around the house are well grazed, that fire breaks, making sure that their equipment's ready, like generators and tanks and that kind of stuff. So they do have this kind of they don't have formal plans as such, but they do.
So they're aware of the risk. Is it enough though?
I don't think. Well, they are aware of the risk, but when you ask them how they feel about the risk of or the threat of bushfires, they actually rate it quite low. So they rate it quite low, I think, for a number of reasons, and one of those is that they think they're well planned or they're prepared for it. But also, most of the farmers have been there for up to 50 years. They're familiar with the area, the weather, the paddocks. They're familiar with. They've lived through bushfires before, so they're kind of this very self-confident. Self-efficacy is quite high in terms of bushfire, so that means that they rate the risk lower.
Okay, but if they've been on the one block of land for 50 years, seen fires come and go, maybe battled the odd fire themselves, that's fair enough to be confident in their ability, isn't it?
Absolutely, I think so too. And they're very practical people, so they've got the skills and the knowledge. Where it comes down is that bushfires are unpredictable, and so when things go bad, things go very bad, and they may not necessarily have thought about or expected things to go that way.
So what does that mean? There's no plan B?
Yeah, that's what we found. You asked the farmers, okay, at what point, if this happens, or at what point do you go, something's gone really badly, what am I going to do now? And they say, well, I don't know. I never thought about what I would do. I just wanted to stay and defend. They don't have a plan B, which, yeah.
Tim, given you've got, if you have stock on the property, say, or you've got the homestead, whatever it might be, how strong is that pull to stay and defend the property?
I think the instinct of most rural landholders, I'm talking like broadacre farmers, is to defend and put that fire out. And as seen with this disaster we had earlier in the year, people thought, well, we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe things could turn bad in our direction. We'll go and yard the stock and get them in a safe place and do that sort of thing. And so they've done that, and then gone on doing other jobs to fight the fire or defend other properties. So, yeah, that's yeah, livestock's important, and people do all they can to look after them.
But is that concern for livestock and the value of that livestock as well? Is that one of the reasons why people might be so reluctant to leave?
Well, that's probably a fair comment, but I mean, we're used to having to deal with the situation, so we've got to stay and deal with the situation. If things turn really bad, sure, we'll get out. We've got to do that. Like, first priority is life. Human life's first priority, and safety. So, I mean, I think farmers are very good at risk assessment and making decisions on the ground.
But Tim, you're a volunteer firefighter, so you understand the risks. When you say if things get that bad, we'll get out, isn't that leaving it too late?
Oh yes, for sure. Yes, that's a very good point, Cameron, and that's sort of been highlighted too with comments that have been made. I'll just answer that one. If you're planning to leave, you must leave early while there's a good opportunity. Don't leave late. But what I was alluding to was, you always need an escape route. You always need a plan of where you're going to go, and you need to be able to look and assess where there's a safe zone or how you can take safety, and be adequately prepared that you can do that.
Tim Zwars, who you're hearing from there, who's a farmer and president of the Laura Ag Bureau in South Australia. Also been hearing from Dr. Bradley Smith from CQ University in Adelaide. Now, one of the initiatives that might make farmers perhaps more willing to leave if it's a situation that requires that, make them more prepared to leave their livestock in a fast-moving fire is something called Save 'em. It's the South Australian Vet Emergency Management Group. Rachel Westcott can tell us a bit more about Save 'em. Rachel, welcome to the program.
Hello, Cameron.
Now, you're a vet and president of the group. Why did you set it up?
Cameron, Save 'em began in 2009 following the Victorian bushfires of February of that year, because we sent some aid to Victoria and we sent some personnel as well, but it was quite clear after that event that there wasn't enough in place in South Australia to manage something of that scale should it happen and when it might happen here. So during 2009 and 2010, a group of volunteer vets set up the South Australian Veterinary Emergency Management Group, and we wrote a formal plan, and that plan is now part of the state government's State Emergency Management Plan under a series of hierarchies, which we sit under Primary Industries and Regions, SA. And our group of approximately 250 volunteer vets, veterinary nurses, wildlife carers and others with other particular skills to offer do send in formal teams of what we call first response teams after we're cleared to go into a fire ground by the control agency, which is the Country Fire Service in South Australia. And we'll send in those teams, assess what needs to be done, and then we put the resources in place via our logistics people.
But what are you looking for, and what decisions are you making?
We're looking for animals in the first instance. When we're cleared to go into a fire ground, we're looking in the first instance for animals that need veterinary assistance. Now, that could be livestock, companion animals, horses, wildlife. Now, those animals some may need to be euthanased in the field, and some may need to be brought back to a control centre hospital for treatment, where there's also a place for relocating animals' owners when they're wandering at large, and we can do all that as well. But primarily it's an animal welfare agency, veterinary emergency management, but we work in emergency management, not an animal rescue organisation like the RSPCA. We're trained according to the same protocols as the emergency services, which gives us a key point of difference in the sector.
So is there a hope here that because you have state government backing or certified by the state government that farmers might feel more confident about leaving their property if they know your group comes in and assesses the situation afterwards?
That's certainly part of what we hope to offer. I think with our volunteers being available, we offer a level of resources that isn't available in other areas of government departments, and because we can offer that level of resources and get enough people in on the ground to offer good animal welfare outcomes, it's certainly going to offer some reassurance to animal owners that trained professionals are going to be in there as soon as possible after an event, and we'll work with livestock owners and farmers as well to help them get access to what they need. But it's a multi-agency approach, and there are several other groups along in the same tier of arrangements as us.
Well, Tim, broadly speaking, how do you think livestock owners, farmers, feel about this?
Well, I think it's probably a great initiative that Rachel's talking about, but I sort of see a little bit of a difficulty in the fact that, well, not a difficulty, but in like the situation that we've just had, all the farmers are, if they've left, they've got straight back in, because these people, like, we're equipped to go and do mopping up and make sure that things are safe, and find out where livestock are, and we're in there making the place safe in the first place.
So the farmers feel they're in the best position to make these judgments, do they?
Oh no, I'm saying that the farmers won't necessarily be away and not be there to help make the decisions. But it's great to have a group like this to come in and help to make those decisions on what livestock needs to be put down or treated in what way. The Department of Ag over here was a big help in doing that, but that's after the fire's made safe, after things are sorted out, and once you've located your stock and that type of thing. So it's when the fire ground is made safe, that sort of thing is already happening from the farmers. But to have help to do that, that's great. Yes, yeah, for sure.
Rachel, Victoria's put forward this suggestion, this idea that there'll be, or it's promised to implement, I should say, escort vehicles and services to allow farmers and animal welfare groups to go past roadblocks after bushfires, and take that approach. What do you make of that as an initiative?
Well, I think anything that's going to help close gaps and make for better outcomes is going to be good. The important thing is to remember that this needs to be done in collaboration with the emergency services, because people self-deploying can be very dangerous, not only to themselves but to emergency service personnel who may need to go after them in the case of if circumstances change and they're in danger. But where there is escorted, if those resources are available by the emergency services to help in that and it's safe to do so, then I think that's a very good initiative.
Dr. Bradley Smith, if I can just finish with you, does there have to be a certain level of respect and acknowledgement that in many cases it will be the farmers that perhaps know best, know their land the best, know the requirements of their stock the best, and any initiative that allows them to go about their work safely and uninterrupted is probably needed in some respects?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that we found quite frequently was that a lot of the farmers felt that the CFS or emergency people didn't actually listen to them or ask them questions about what the fire would do in certain cases. I mean, particularly when you have crews from other parts of the state or interstate that aren't familiar with that land, you really need to start cooperating with the farmers and utilising the farmers' knowledge and experience. One of the things they do is have their farm fire units, which are really quite effective during bushfires and really assist the CFS. And one of the things that the CFS has now done is they have these certified farm fire units, and they can start bringing those together as a force and use them quite strategically. So that's kind of a promising thing.
Well, certainly the time of year for people in the south and the southeast to be thinking about this. Dr. Bradley Smith, thanks for coming in today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Bradley's lecturer with the Human Factors and Safety Research Centre. That's at CQ University in Adelaide. My thanks to you, Rachel, as well. Rachel Westgate, President of SAVEM. That's a veterinary emergency group. And Tim Zwar, who's a farmer and President of the Laura Ag Bureau in South Australia. My thanks to all of you today.